Today, we're going to be taking a look at how to install the new Oracle LED wheel rings on a Polaris RZR. These are the new UTV wheel rings. They're smaller diameter, made specifically for side-by-sides. The steps we take today are going to be pretty much what you would do on any type of side-by-side because it's a universal product. We're going to be doing it on this RZR, but really, no matter what type of side-by-side you're driving, the steps are pretty much going to be the same. So let's go ahead and show you how it's done. We're going to start by removing the wheel. The step's pretty straightforward, but if you're not familiar with it, make sure to consult your owner's manual. Kind of limited on tools. The jack and the jack stands are not ideal for this installation, but this is happening during quarantine, so kind of stuck with what we got. Make sure to fit the ring in the wheel. Make sure you got enough space. Most 14-inch wheels will accept the rings. And then same thing around the caliper and the rotor itself. Just make sure it fits. We're going to go ahead and attach to the upper and lower caliper bolts. So go ahead and remove these. All right, since we're going to be using the caliper bolt to hold on the bracket, usually the hardware that goes in here is a lot smaller. So this is not going to fit. Because of that, we're going to have to go ahead and elongate our hole here. So in order to do that, if we don't have a drill press handy, which we don't in this case, we'll go ahead and simply take a 2x4. We're going to screw our bracket down to the 2x4 and go ahead and drill this out. There you go, we're good to go. All right, with the bracket now modified, we can go ahead and install the bolt and bracket back onto the upper caliper mount. All right, so you can see the bracket sticks up through here. We'll go ahead and just test fit everything. And yeah, that's where we want to be. We want to make sure we're clearing the caliper and clearing the rotor and get the ring as centered as possible. So we'll go ahead and do the same thing on the lower bracket, and then we'll show you how we're going to triangulate it and put another mount on this side. So this is pretty much going to be the same steps as we did on the top side. Remove the bolt, install the bracket, replace the bolt. Once we have the ring on, we'll adjust the brackets. Now the third attachment point is going to be right here. Again, there's a 15mm nut, and it's a little tight to get in here, so a ratcheting wrench seems to work best. All right, with the third bracket in place, we can go ahead and start mocking everything up and just take a look at how everything's fitting. As you can see, there's a guard here on the top of the rotor that's preventing the ring from really sitting center. And if you're running anything smaller than 15-inch wheels, it's going to get in the way. So we're gonna go ahead and remove this. This is usually really only found on the 1000 turbos. So now we're much more centered than we were before, and the ring's in a great position. All right, so now when it comes time to actually physically mount the ring, you see we have to mount this to the bracket like this. So, you know, when you go to take these off initially, it's pretty straightforward because the screwdriver can fit right in here, and you can loosen the screw and take these off to actually mount it, and then you have to reattach these. So when you go to reattach the brackets, you really have a small amount of room that you have to work with in here. So you really want to try to make it as easy as possible. So when you're putting the screw back on, you'll see it's a little hard to see, but there's a tiny lock washer on here. So we want to make sure that we're actually torquing the screw down pretty well. One way to do it is just use a really nice size, shorty, stubby type screwdriver where you can get in there in a pretty tight space. Another thing that's pretty helpful is having a 90 on your screw gun. That makes it easier to get into these tight spaces. And what I like to use is Phillips on a 90, something like this, or like this, where you can really get in and twist it and really tighten that down, because you want to lock down that lock nut so that this doesn't loosen up on you while you're on the trail or riding through some rough terrain. All right, when we're routing these wires up, we just want to go ahead and secure them to the brake line. The brake line is going to have enough slack built into it for full suspension articulation, so we don't have to worry about these getting binded up or anything. We'll just follow us up with the brake line right into the cavity here. We'll go ahead and mount our controller and get power. All right, so we've got our cable fished up through here. What we'll go ahead and do is just go ahead and set up the control box just so we can test everything as we get these installed. I highly recommend the VC1 controller. This is a Bluetooth controller. It's completely waterproof. It's super small, so we have a lot of options where we mount it, and you don't have to worry about hitting it with water or spraying it down with a pressure washer. After you ride, all the connections are waterproof and everything is plug and play with the wheel rings. So VC1's the way to go unless you really want one of the other controllers for specific reasons. We offer a wide variety of different RGB color shift controllers. So this one is controlled through your smartphone with an app. If you didn't want that for whatever reason, you wanted something dash mounted that you can control, we have options for that as well. So let's go ahead and get this mounted and get these wired up. We'll just go ahead and just clean the surface off real good where we're gonna mount this guy. That way we wanna make sure this thing sticks and doesn't go anywhere. Of course, if you're really gonna be beating on your side-by-side, it doesn't hurt to use a tie strap or something else to really secure it down. These cables are a little bit longer than they need to be. They come with ring terminals already on them, but I'm gonna go ahead and cut them, shorten them up just to keep everything nice and clean in the engine bay. You also see we have a little bit more clutter in here than you're used to. This is our Bluetooth controller for the Halo, so don't worry about that. That's for a totally different system on this. All right, so we got everything connected to power. We can go ahead and open the Oracle Color Shift app, turn the lights on, and then select from the colors. You know, we just want to make sure everything's working right now and everything looks good, so we can go ahead and move forward and install the rest of the LED rings on the other three wheels. All right, on the back, the brackets are gonna mount pretty much the same way we did on the front. We've got two 15mm caliper bolts right here. So, see how we have a space here? The bracket is not really reaching the ring, and we're topping out on the caliper here, so we can't push the ring down and the bracket can't come up. So that is why we actually have extra brackets. You only need to use 3, but each ring has 5 brackets on it. Well, basically, when you're running in a situation like this, now you can see here I've got a bracket mounted to the ring and a bracket mounted to the caliper bolt, and there's a hole here where I can mount or just basically put a screw with a nut through this to basically attach these 2 brackets together, and then we're actually centering the ring at that point. We're gonna have to do the same thing on the other caliper bolt down here. And when you get done, it should basically look like this. Now the third point, you can see right here, it doesn't really have a surface to mount to. So I'm gonna drill a small hole and basically use that as an attachment point. You could bend the bracket and put a bolt through. In this case, we're really just gonna put a zip tie through here and strap this bracket down. The caliper bolts are really sustaining, basically holding this thing in place. We're just trying to steady it with the zip tie. All right, so we're gonna run our cables again with the brake lines. Just sort of follow the brake lines. We're gonna tie strap the cables with the lines. Right here, they've got the shield that goes over the brake line. So we're gonna go ahead and just use this to also shield the cable through here, just in case anything comes up through the wheel. And then follow these lines, and we'll go ahead and bring it in the same place we brought in the other cable in the front. Now, just following the rest of the cables through the console up into the front, all we have to do now is go ahead and connect our box to power and ground. So red wire goes to positive, black wire goes to ground, and really it's probably best to put this to a switch just so you can control the lights, turn them on and off without actually having to go in and control them through the app.